I'm Dr. Biaggi, and this is your Musicology Smackdown. Let me just come out and say it. I hate Valentine's Day. Not because I'm a callous fembot who lacks utterly in compassion, because while that's true, there are much, much better reasons to loathe this holiday. The main one, as far as I'm concerned, is the soundtrack. Look, throughout history there has probably been no greater inspiration for songwriting than love. Even ancient Greek philosophers like Socrates and Plato were known to strum a zither at the supple sight of a young man's ass. And who could forget Shakespeare, whose plays were jam-packed with songs, including If Music Be the Food of Love, Play On. So it comes as no surprise that music and love go hand in hand. Fine. However, Valentine's Day-related cornball balladeering is responsible for some of the most awful, most carelessly maudlin music this century has ever known. Some of the worst of it happened in the 80s and early 90s. It was as if the Cold War made people drive their fist-pumping patriotism into similarly cheesy musical expressions of romance. At least that's the theory I'm going to roll with for the moment. Take Peter Cetera's The Glory of Love, Vanessa Williams' Save the Best for Last, Richard Marx' Right Here Waiting, Lionel Richie's Hello, or Tonight I Celebrate My Love by Peabo Bryson or Roberta Flack. Perhaps the most heinous culprit was the insidious Bryan Adams, who we can blame for some of the corniest songs to ever be composed, ever. Among them, straight from the heart, When You Love Someone and Everything I Do. And then there's his presumptuous, Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman? Why no, Bryan Adams. No one ever really loved a woman until you came along and instructed them with this song. With songs like these being released in the name of love, it's no wonder February is the month with the highest suicide rate. But this is not to say you can't write a good love song. There are plenty of them, and some even have just enough, but not too much, cornball in them to make Valentine's Day seem like kind of a good reason to make a mixtape for your baby. So the doctor is here to help you put together a few sweet songs so that, at the very least, you're not in the doghouse when your corner bodega runs out of red-tipped carnations. And without further ado, here are some of Dr. Biaggi's best recs for a Valentine's Day mixtape. Fields of Gold by Tantric Sex God Sting made a young Dr. Biaggi run out and buy a box of condoms before she even knew what they were for. Yes, fine, that was last year. What's it to you? The Magnetic Fields' Book of Love is the kind of quirky love song you always hoped someone who was kind of a nerd was also musical enough to write. Sarah Vaughan and Clifford Brown's Embraceable You is maybe the most languorously sexy version of that song I've ever heard. Elvis's Love Me Tender, really, no explanation needed. By the end of that song, I'm usually no longer wearing pants, which is especially awkward if I'm on the subway. As far as I'm concerned, the late, troubled Elliott Smith was one of the greatest songwriters of my generation, and his song, Say Yes, is a sweet little reminder of the fact that he wasn't always reaching for the Jim Beam and the Prozac. On the indie front, I'm fond of This Modern Love by Block Party, Ryan Adams' spookily amazing cover of Wonderwall, Devotchka's You Love Me, a little band called the Rosebuds' Makeout Song, Neutral Milk Hotel's In the Aeroplane Over the Sea, Charlene Yee's Magic Perfume, 13 by Big Star, Iron and Wine's Each Coming Night, Pinback's Loro, and the heartbreaking I Will Follow You Into the Dark by Death Cab for Cutie. And how is the lyric, quote, She only comes when she's on top, not a perfect Valentine? So toss Laid by James on there too. Then there are the songs you may have already thought of, but they're totally worth including, especially if you're trying to get your baby to loan you rent money, buy you a PS3, or put out when she's on the rag. These are surefire, tested classics, so while you don't want to be the cliched moron that fills a mixtape with only these tracks, you might think about getting a couple of them on there for good measure. Peter Gabriel's Lost in Your Eyes, Elvis Costello's Allison, Elton John's Your Song, The Beatles' Long, 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 Sade's By Your Side, Melt With You by Modern English, Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers, My Funny Valentine by Frank Sinatra, Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor, Hottie Chris Isaac's Wicked Game, and Pale Blue Eyes by the Velvet Underground. And because I'll use any excuse to play it, Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. Now, these are just suggestions, and I'm sure you'll want to put your own personal spin on any Valentine's Day mixtape. But because I'm looking out for you, I just want to note that no lovey mix should ever, under any circumstances, feature any one of the following: Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division, Pussy by Rammstein, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon, Roxanne by The Police, Thong Song by Sisqo, Divorce by Tammy Wynette, A Man Needs a Maid by Neil Young, Gold Digger by Kanye West, A Quick One While He's Away by The Who, and Guns N' Roses' Used to Love Her, But I Had to Kill Her. While many of these songs may be appropriate for your baby, chances are slim that if you played them, you would ever get laid again. So if you want to give or get a heart on, take Dr. Biaggi's advice and turn it up.